Editor Walter Updegrave's article entitled "Recoup Your Bear Losses" appeared in CNN Money magazine on July 8, 2009. In his article, he stated that all we needed to do was keep investing in stocks and earn a real rate of return of 12.8%, and by 2017 we'd be right back where we started before the Great Recession. Fascinatingly enough, while doing research for this documentary, I searched Google to locate Updegrave's exact wording, but the article wasn't anywhere to be found. All of his other July 2009 articles popped up quickly, but not this one. So finally I went back to my own 2009 blog where I had quoted and referenced Updegrave, and by pasting his exact wording along with the article titled, which by the way had been changed, the article popped up in a Google search. You might be saying, why all the fuss about one article? Well, here's why. Updegrave was wrong, and he should be held accountable for that because people who followed his advice and still haven't got the results they were expecting are not happy. So let's look at what happened. In October of 2007, the NASDAQ peaked at 3376. By February of 2009, it dropped to a low of 1604, a loss of nearly 50%. In order to recover that near loss of 50%, you'd have to earn 100%, not a 12.8% to break even. And those type of earnings simply have not happened. Yes, the market has recovered and is booming again, but even still, as I cut this video, the NASDAQ is only trading at 6614, which is 138 points shy of reaching the point it was in 2007 when Updegrave made his predictions. As seen from this chart, investors are still shy of getting back to where they were in October 2007. But here's the bigger reason why Updegrave's advice is so upsetting. Even if they were back where they were in October 2007, they would be 10 years behind. That means they will never catch up to where they had been had they not lost nearly 50% in 2007-2008. Of course, the market correction wasn't Updegrave's fault, but that doesn't excuse him from being responsible for the advice he gave investors after the crash. Another factor to be mindful of is inflation. Over the past 10 years, your dollar has lost nearly 20% of its value. What cost $10 in 2007 will now cost you over $12. That makes the losses hurt even more because investors still have not recovered their original investment value and now face inflated dollars as well. This means they must earn even more to break even to where they were in 2007. David Bach, the author of The Automatic Millionaire, depicts the growth of an investment over a period of time, 50 years to be exact, on page 48 of his book called The Automatic Millionaire. He's spot on by encouraging his readers to start saving earlier than later, because as everyone knows, savings is the most important element in making sure you have the money you will need for the future. But then Bach illustrates how you can become a millionaire by saving very little, $3,000 a year for 5 years, only earning a 10% annual return. By the way, that's what the S&P 500 has earned annually since 1926 when it was founded. Granted, he has the proper disclaimer at the bottom of the chart warning that all returns and investments will fluctuate. Investment return and principal value will fluctuate, and your investment's value may be more or less than the original invested amount. But what he doesn't appear to realize, and his readers most likely don't either, or can't discern it, that such a statement strongly abolishes any probability of anybody actually ever earning 10%, while exposing you to 100% risk of losing everything you've invested. The bottom line is this: investments are risky and are not reliable. Consequently, they cannot be depended upon completely for your future needs. Think about it. Less than 10 short years ago, the Great Recession of 2008 wiped out most of the vast profits posted since the dot-com bubble of 2001. And most investors are still clamoring to regain all that they lost due to that crash. This single significant fact eliminates any reason why you should trust or expect to build any kind of sustaining, let alone substantial amount of wealth for your future needs by playing in the stock market. Furthermore, it should damper the misnomer that saving a mere $15,000 will turn you into an automatic millionaire someday, like Bach suggests on page 48 of his book. In contrast, here is some important data you should know and understand if you want to join the financial top 1% of Americans today. According to Halpin Financial, the market ends each day in positive territory only 50% of the time. Corrections occur with regularity, and according to CNBC March 13, 2017, that regularity is about every 8 to 10 years with an average loss of 42%. To put it bluntly, you have around a 50-50 chance of ending each day with a profit. At the same time, you have a chance of losing 42% of your portfolio and principal, profits included, every 8 to 10 years. These stakes are pretty high if you're planning on becoming a millionaire, or even if you just simply want to build a secure nest egg for you and your loved ones by trading stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Of course, this applies to your 401k, IRA, 403b as well if those funds are involved in these kind of markets. That being said, carefully examine the following. If you lose 10%, you'll need to earn 11% to recover. If you lose 25%, you'll need to gain 33% to make up your loss. If you lose 50%, you will have to earn 100% to get back to where you started. And if you lose 80% like many did in 2008, you will need to earn 400% just to break even. Also realize that these figures don't take into account any inflationary depreciation of your invested dollars. Consequently, as mentioned earlier, your earnings will have to be much higher in order to recover your losses after a market crash or correction that occurs. Keep in mind, market corrections materialize on a much more regular basis than most investors ever expect or anticipate. This leads us to seriously contemplate the power behind compounding growth delivered through guaranteed contracts versus speculative average rate of return projections. Here it becomes important to differentiate the growth in tax-deferred accounts versus the growth in tax-preferred and contractually guaranteed investment contracts. For example, a 6% annual return on invested money where you deferred the income tax on the money which you are investing will provide you an 85% advantage over investing earning a 6% annual return where you prepaid the income taxes on the money making that investment. Of course, taxes must be paid on both the principal and the growth in the tax-deferred investment anytime you access it. And that tax liability could be significantly higher later on because tax deductions and exemptions tend to be used up or disappear as we get older. However, if you pay your income tax on your money before you start investing, then the growth on that money can still benefit from being tax deferred if you use the proper financial tool. And you'll still benefit from the compounding annual growth rate without ever having to face taxation on that principal again. With proper planning, you can avoid taxation on the growth as well. This later tax-preferred investing strategy is used expansively by banks, corporations, and nonprofits, and it can be used by average individuals and small business owners as well. The only drawback is that most investors have never heard about these tax-preferred investment strategies, and those who have tend to misunderstand the powerful implications of incorporating them into their portfolio. But before we take a look at these alternative investments, let's take another look at Bach's chart on page 48. Here you will see he uses a 10% annual rate of return as his benchmark for figuring the compound annual growth rate. The unspoken caution here is that he's using the average rate of return for the S&P 500, which has certainly proven valid historically. Interestingly enough, however, the real rate of return for the S&P 500 has only been 7% historically. Thus, Bach's figures don't lie, but they certainly don't properly portray what is most likely or actually going to happen. Not to pick on Bach alone, realize that all those who preach this kind of financial doctrine concerning the time value of money tend to favor using average rates of return instead of actual rates of return. The reason? It's obvious. The higher average rates typically look much better than the actual rates. In this example, using the actual rate of return of 7 instead of the annual average rate of return of 10 drops your yield to a meager $414,000 by age 65 instead of the $1.6 million which Bach illustrates in his book on page 48. Unfortunately, as an investor, you will also end up paying some kind of trading fee or loading fee. And even if those fees are relatively low, say cumulative 1%, they will destroy another $153,000 of your projected earnings, thus leaving you with only $261,000 at age 65 instead of the grandiose $1.6 million which Bach predicts you will have. That's 83.81% less than what you were expecting. That's not good. So what about tax-preferred method of investing mentioned earlier? How does it compare, or does it compare, with Bach, Updegrave, and so many others that are continuing advocating? The answer is straightforward and sobering at the same time. Investing in participating whole life insurance has been debunked and ridiculed by so many for so long that most investors stay clear of it, even to honestly investigate its actual merits. That's too bad, because maximizing the tax-preferred growth portion of a participating whole life insurance policy, as the IRS allows, can earn you a 7.3.1% tax equivalent rate of return. That means you'd have to earn 7.31% outside of participating whole life insurance to match the growth that the participating whole life insurance policy can provide for you. And even then, you wouldn't have the death benefit that the policy provides. Translated, that means you don't have to expose yourself to any market risk, fees, or corrections in order to earn more than what the S&P 500 has averaged historically since 1926. You can simply, easily purchase a participating whole life insurance policy, engineered to maximize your premium dollars to take advantage of the section in the IRS code that permits you to build up high cash values in your policy without facing taxations on that growth. And as your cash value growth compounds in a safe and guaranteed contract, you get to defer the taxes on that growth. Of course, when you purchase participating whole life insurance, you pay a premium, but there are no additional fees. This means you don't have to worry about ever seeing your earnings ever being eroded like what you've seen happen to that $1.6 million in Bach's example. Therefore, you will keep more of what you gain, even when a market correction comes along, like we've seen they frequently do. Finally, the growth that you experience in participating whole life insurance will never face taxation, even as you use it to subsidize your retirement or to leverage it to invest in other opportunities that materialize during your lifetime. By following the IRS guidelines on how to access your money, taxes are no longer a consideration. Furthermore, when you do exercise your right to leverage your participating whole life insurance and use the policy's cash value to invest in other opportunities, you won't lose or give up your 7.31% tax equivalent compounded annual growth rate. And that allows you to profit twice with the same dollar. By keeping both the policy growth rate and the side investment growth rate, your portfolio can grow significantly, much faster, and more securely. When the time comes for you to pass from this life and leave your legacy behind, your death benefit from the policy will multiply your assets tax-free up to the first $5.6 million, and you will leave this world a better place, giving the next generation a step up financially instead of leaving them in a position to start all over again from scratch or having to pay taxes on what you left for them in hopes of benefiting them. Now back to CNN Money and Walter Updegrave. On May 14, 2015, Updegrave wrote again in CNN Money and said, "My mother's automatic response whenever I asked her for something she considered unreasonable was, 'People in hell want ice water.' Translated, just because you want something doesn't mean you can have it." Updegrave wrote that anyone desiring to earn an 8% annual return in today's market deserves the same answer his mother gave. Yet it was Updegrave himself who said that you needed to earn 12.8% annually in order to get back to where you were before 2008. By now, he's telling us, given today's low interest rates and relatively lofty stock valuations, the consensus among investors and investment pros is that we're in for an extended period of low returns. He further quotes EFT guru Rick Furia, who estimates that annualized returns will be around 7% long-term over the next few decades. Fortunately, Updegrave ends up with some sound advice, solid advice, which is save more, spend less, and avoid shooting for high returns because that will create more volatility in your portfolio and your savings will get hammered during market meltdowns. All this conclusively demonstrates that participating whole life insurance is a fair, average to better than average savings vehicle. It not only provides a better than actual return on your money, but historically, it delivers the liquidity necessary to afford opportunities while not giving up opportunity cost. This, along with the guaranteed annual growth rate and the dividend participation that enjoys tax-deferred compounding annual growth, are qualities that have been overlooked and undervalued. And when added to your portfolio, these qualities make the probability of you becoming an automatic millionaire much more likely and certainly protects you from losing 50% or more of any future market correction.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Also click the subscribe button to enjoy the latest content and newest videos on the channel.